So today's episode of the Crucible is a good one. I've got Calvin L. Butts Jr. I almost called you Trey. That's his son. But we're going to hear a lot about his career, but really about the crucible moment that set him towards a path of success. So first, Cal, we're going to start with your bio, right? So, I've known you for some time.
It's been a minute.
I'm extremely proud to know you, but I'm going to let the audience in on a little bit about who Calvin is. So Calvin L. Butts Jr. is an accomplished entrepreneur and private equity mogul, best known for co-founding Getaway Society and East Chop Capital. Now, Getaway Society, which was founded in 2014, is a $30 million luxury vacation rental company. It has properties in locations like Martha's Vineyard, Hilton Head, Texas, Florida, you name it. In 2018, Calvin, because he can't get enough done in a day, decided to co-found East Chop Capital, and that's a private equity firm that focuses on providing Black founders with access to capital, as well as Black investors with access to private market deal flow. That company is involved in a couple of sectors in particular, if I'm correct, right? Real estate, and then angel investing.
Yes.
So he also has CB3 Holdings, and through CB3 Holdings, Calvin himself has invested in more than 30 companies, including Uncle Nearest, highly successful Black-owned spirits brand. If you don't know it, look it up, but it has a phenomenal story of its own. Calvin serves on several boards, one being Princeton Healthcare System, and the other his beloved alma mater, Hampton University. So from Hampton, Calvin holds a bachelor's degree, but he also holds an executive MBA from Temple University, Fox School of Business, as well as executive certifications from Harvard Business School. But not only does he have those certifications from HBS, he was also, one of his businesses was also the subject of an HBS case study. And that's kind of when you know you made it. That was, I remember that moment where you sent a text to the group and we looked at the link and we're like, oh, he's the subject of a Harvard Business Study.
Well, it was about us and Uncle Nearest.
Yeah, but it was dope.
Yeah, it was
Let's
dope.
just, we're gonna own it. It was dope. Like you wouldn't be on this show if you weren't as accomplished.
Got you.
But the cool thing about this show is like we're not actually talking. The thing about this podcast, we're not talking about the accomplishments.
Okay.
We're actually talking about crucible moments, right?
Okay.
So crucible moments are these moments of severe tests and trials. We all go through them. They're cyclical. They come and go. Sometimes in short periods of time. Sometimes in long periods of time. But what I found in my career is that when I've shared these crucible moments with others, those opportunities where I was most vulnerable were where the folks I was sharing with, that's where they learned the most. And so I would love to give you an opportunity to talk about a crucible moment of your own. What would you call out as a particular moment that was a severe trial or test for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here on your podcast, man. Congratulations on this. This is outstanding. And, thanks for, kind of flipping the topics a little bit and kind of talking about, these integral moments and places in our lives where we had to pivot and adjust and adapt. So for me, I'm drawn to 2008. 2008 was a roller coaster year for me. It was the year I got married to my late wife, and it's also the year my father died. And so I saw a lot in a short time frame. Coming off a beautiful wedding and thinking about, starting a family and, this new life, I dealt with my father passing later that year in November, and it really just changed everything for me. I mean, it gave me just a drive that most of my friends recognized and considered to be like a run of a lifetime, where I didn't think I had much time left. So I went completely focused and began the hustle, if you call it, thinking about wealth, thinking about legacy, and trying to fill the shoes and kind of replace this very vital person that was in my life that I wanted to be in my wife and my kids' lives. It was no longer going to be there. So now I felt like I had to wear many shoes. And so I really focused and really began my journey in entrepreneurism. I began my journey in, creating my own legacy and just trying to do outstanding work and change the world.
Yeah, no, you've been doing it, keep doing it. Very, like as I mentioned earlier, proud of the work you're doing. We're more family and friends at
No
this
question.
point, right?
No
So,
question.
But talk to me just for a second about. You mentioned that you didn't feel like you had much time left.
Yeah.
Like, what's that? What does that mean?
So my dad died when he was in his late 50s, and so that really made me do the math in my own head. So I was like, well, at this pace, I think I got married when I was 29. So you do the math. I mean, you're like, okay, you got X, Y, Z years left, and if you carry the same fate, then that's a short time period. And I had a lot I wanted to accomplish, and I really just thought I had more time. Just like I thought I had more time with him. Yeah. So I basically just went to the fast forward button, and I just tried to move faster. I made a commitment to doing things in real time and just trying to just be at like warp speed and light speed, and it just happened to be kind of the thing that worked for me. I grew up with ADHD, so being involved in multiple things at the same time, tends to be an advantage to me because I learned how to live with ADHD. And so I use that to my advantage. So that's when multiple businesses started, multiple investments became about, and then everything just kind of fell in place, and I became, actively involved in all different types of ventures.
So it's actually kind of that ADHD has kind of become your superpower.
No question about it. No question about it. Leaning into it and letting myself have the day that most would call crazy or chaotic, me to go between 9 different email accounts, talk to multiple different partners across different businesses. It's better for me to have a day like that than to have a day where I got to sit and do one thing, for sure, no question.
That's amazing. First of all, I think we're now kind of on 2 separate Crucible moment situations.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think that for people to hear that, I think I've seen campaigns recently talking about ADHD and thinking of it differently, but to look at your background, understand, that not only did you grow up with ADHD, but you've grown up, succeeded with it, used it to your advantage.
No question.
That's amazing.
No question.
And also in the face of carrying that forward, with unfortunate death being that kind of flashpoint, I think is something really to talk about, because a lot of people, when death occurs, right? It's always emotional, and a lot of us we turn inwardly. And most people will shut the rest of the world out in those moments, and some people never recover from that. And so I love that you took that moment of your father, who was bigger than life to you, right? And said, "Oh wow, look at my clock. It's time for me to move." And now you look back and you're like,
"Yeah,
I'm doing it."
Yeah, it was certainly a moment where I challenged myself to step into the shoes and kind of step into his namesake, and to kind of own it. Being a junior, and then him being a prominent physician in town, and just the weight that he carried, and some of the things that he did in his own legacy building. I wanted to be right there. Like I wanted to continue his race. So I had to do what I could to catch up between me and him, because I felt like I had to finish his race as well.
I love that. So knowing you had to finish his race, and feeling that way, what would be a lesson, for instance, that you would want your kids, right, to take from, what you learned to this point? Like, what would be a lesson from your Crucible moment that you I want my kids to know this?
Well, there's a couple of things. I think the first thing is just that, every day matters, right? Every day matters, and all decisions carry weight, right? Your decisions you make today, if you're 20, your 40-year-old self is going to either benefit or, have trouble with, right? So every decision matters, and you have to make smart decisions. You have to think about your future self. I think I bundle all that under the term legacy. Yeah. Like, if you're living for your legacy, if you're building a legacy, then you kind of always have that in the back of your mind. You kind of always processing, hey, this is important because other people are watching. It matters to people, and so I like to live in kind of my father's legacy, and then trying to create my own.
I love that. So let me ask you this: what do you've got all these different things happening, all these different, like you said, decisions matter. I would imagine in your everyday, you're probably making 100 decisions on a million different things, right?
Correct.
So what do you do when one of those decisions doesn't yield the result that you were, at least hoping at the time that you made it? What do you do when that occurs? Like, what's your go-to?
Also, I think first thing I recognize, if there's a decision that goes wrong, you got to learn from it, right? So I immediately process what happened. What was the other option? If I chose B, what was A, what was C? And then, I think out those scenarios and see if it really would have made a difference or whether there was just a bad situation that I couldn't impact, avoid, or adjust or change. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, every decision you make, you just got to learn from it. I mean, you got to own it and learn from it. And then if there's others that are watching or if folks are, kind of involved in the decisions, taking responsibility, taking accountability for them, and kind of, just kind of sharing the truth of, hey, this was a mistake, and acknowledging that to oneself or to others involved. But, definitely learning from your mistakes.
I love that. I mean, so with this particular podcast, right, we talk to people about their crucible moments. In some cases, those are great failures. In other cases, they're just like I mentioned, severe trials. Mm-hmm. But if you were to jump to the website, you'll actually see a note under there where it says the crucible. No losses, just lessons, right? Yeah. To your point.
Definitely.
I remember when you and I first met. It wasn't the first time we met. It was later that week, and we met. And we talked about like all this entrepreneurial stuff. Mm-hmm. We talked about our love for Martha's Vineyard.
Correct.
And I remember walking away from that conversation and saying to myself, because I've had a few entrepreneurial ventures, and saying the difference between Calvin and myself was execution.
Yeah.
Like he executes on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that you that idea that these moments, every moment matters, right?
Yeah. So I'm a stop and do guy, right?
Yeah.
I am not a to-do list guy. I'm not that crossed my mind, let me go write that down. Yeah. If it's in the moment, I got to stop and do it. Whether it's send an email, make a phone call, write a contract. Like I tend to live like that.
Yeah.
And so it's been hugely beneficial because you get things done faster.
Yeah.
And you get things done faster, things happen, right? So I believe in the motto stop and do.
Okay.
So normally, if you're on a Zoom with me, you'll see me multitasking. If you're, spending time with us in the vineyard, I'm still working, right? So I mean, it's always a stop and do mentality.
Was that the mentality? I think I know the answer to this, but I'm asking anyway. Was that the mentality prior to your dad's passing, or was that part of the time is short?
It was part of the time is short thing. It was literally, it was part of the time is short thing. Because tomorrow's not promised. Man.
Yeah.
I've dealt with a lot of tragedy in my life, and I recognize now that like every day matters, every decision matters. Choosing to go left or right, really is a choose your own adventure world, and you got to make choices and paths and follow them because life is short.
I mean, honestly, I was going to ask you another question, a last piece of advice that you could give to our listeners, but I mean, I think that really sums it up, right? We tell you, like you mentioned, there's two paths we go, we stop, but you got to choose one.
That's right.
Usually going.
Got to keep moving.
Is the right choice, right? Yeah. So
my advice to your listeners is just to keep moving, to take adversity, take forks in the road, make a decision, own it, and just keep moving. Yeah. I do think if you are fortunate enough to have time, then you have time to kind of go back and try different patterns and roles and and make different decisions. But if you're gonna live in the moment, you gotta be in the moment and you gotta keep it moving.
I love it, man. I appreciate you.
Hey man, anytime, brother.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Look, that was a phenomenal conversation with Calvin, talking about crucible moments. And when you get to that moment, that fork in the road is there. So continue on, continue forward, push forward. Recognize that time is short. Mm-hmm. Whether your time is long or not, it's still short. Mm-hmm. And stop and do. That was the Crucible for today. Thanks again for stopping by, and that's the show.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of The Crucible with Jeff Marshall. If you would like to be a guest on the program, let's be in touch. And be sure to stay connected with us through your favorite platforms. The Crucible with Jeff Marshall is part of the A Live Podcast Network and can be found in audio-only format wherever you listen to your podcasts. Production of this project was created by Gifted Entertainment, a full-service creative video production company.